Hey everyone, welcome back. This week is going to be a woodworking project. What I've got this week is going to be a bench that goes at the end of the bed, at the footboard side of the bed. Here's a picture of it. My wife saw that picture and wanted me to, said, can you build something like that? And I'm like, no problem. So finally I'm getting around to doing that. As we all know, it's not going to look exactly like that picture, but I'm going to try to get it as close and accurate as possible. And we're going to start with this. So this is going to be the actual seat, the bench. I'm going to just plane it down. And this is birch. The bed itself is made out of birch. And it's quite thick. It's been seasoned for a few years. It's nice and dry. Let's get started on this bench. Because I got the one side plane on each of these boards, these 2x8, 2x8, 2x6. Now I can get a nice edge here. Now this is flat, I can do a 90-degree and then laminate these two together. And then once they're laminated together, that'll be one big piece, and it'll be big enough to just fit in the planer, so that way I could do the other side that I didn't plane yet and finish this side off again with the plane. So yeah, and that one was the easy one. Can't imagine how much that 8-inch one's going to be. It's heavy. Well, let's see if that actually works. Well, as is typical, it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be a bit of a mess. And that's why. Touches it this end nice and tight. Gap all the way through the middle. And then it gets at that end. Tight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dry clamp that thing in the middle and just see if I can get those boards to come together tight. If I can, good enough. That's all I'm going to do, and I'll leave it at that and trim everything up and square it up after. So this is the gap. Let's just see if this, I think it's going to be fine, but oh, 100%. She's tight. That'll be good. Perfect. Okay, ready to do the glue up on this. I'm doing it filming it at a different angle. I don't know if it's a good angle, probably not, but I'm going to try it anyways. As usual, not prepared. So that's it. Should be pretty decent. Okay, I've got that bench top glued up and ready to square up. I'm going to do that right now. This is how I'm going to do it. So I've used this method before. I'm going to use this piece of plywood which has a nice straight edge all the way along it. The plywood's nice and rigid, so it's not going to bend on me or make any sort of wobble. So it should work fine. I'll just nail it here and down at the other end. And then that way, I'm going to be cutting these ends off anyways, so that'll hold it in place. I know there's track saws and things like that that you can use. I don't have that, never have. So this method's worked well, and I'm going to continue to use it for the time being. Okay, after looking at the width of this plank, I'm thinking it's going to be too wide for what I want. It's going to be too big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off another 2 inches off the one side, which will be okay because I'm going to use that 2-inch square piece kind of as a brace at the bottom of the bench. So it'll work out okay. Best laid plans. Don't have any plans. It's kind of part of the problem, I guess. Anyway. Perfect. Okay, after looking at the width of this plank, I'm thinking it's going to be too wide for what I want. It's going to be too big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off another 2 inches off the one side, which will be okay because I'm going to use that 2-inch square piece kind of as a brace at the bottom of the bench. So it'll work out okay. Best laid plans. Don't have any plans. It's kind of part of the problem, I guess. Anyway. Perfect. So to no one's surprise, I messed up. Went back, looked at the picture of what I'm supposed to build, and I was off by a fair bit. I thought the bench had to be an hour, so basically the 2 inches that I cut off for the width, I'm going to put back on and make it 13 inches wide so it'll fit through the planer and be wide enough to fit the profile of the bench that I am going to make. Another thing, on this piece that I thought I was doing such a smart ass job on, with my nice straight edge, you can maybe, I don't know if you can see it here easily or not. You can see it's good here, and right about here, it goes out. So obviously that's no good either. So I'm gonna square up the bench top that I have now. I'm gonna rip another section 2 inches wide to make the bench top gonna be 13 inches and go from there again. On this one piece I have that I trimmed, I got one little edge on there, but I don't think it's going to be an issue. I hope. Show you what I'm talking about here. So if you see right about here, a little bit of a lip there. That's okay. I think I could trim that off or just sand that down a bit. It should be nice and tight once I clamp it together, hopefully. And the glue up of my new piece. Again. Never a big fan of doing these big pieces like this because they're just a pain, they're heavy, awkward, but anyway, here we go. There's a fair bit of snipe on this because of the weight of the board. This is about the same thickness as the actual bench seat. So to help with snipe, I'll feed this through and then I'll put the bench seat through, and that should get rid of the snipe, hopefully. Well, the little snipe trick didn't work. So, surprise. That's okay. I made this pretty long, and it'll be okay. I'll be able to stand that little bump out. Snipe's always a pain, and the bigger the pieces you have, the worse it is. So next part's figuring out the legs for this thing. It's going to be a bit of a trial and error. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw it out. I've got my craft paper. I'm going to actually just draw it out in full size so I know exactly what I am doing and I know exactly the length of pieces I need. Once I do that, I'll figure out what I've got for pieces and make it out of that. So that's what I'm going to do. You'll see the process, which is painful for everybody, including myself, and probably especially for you guys if you're watching this. So I measure twice. 1 and 7 15/16. 1 to 7 15/16. 1 to not even close. What the hell? Why is this always having struggles with this? So 2 to 16 is 14, so 7. No. Well, this is probably easier. Might be able to see it better there. So that's the actual side view drawing, which I think is actually pretty accurate. Looks good. I think that's going to be good. Like this is the full size graphic, so I could just measure these angles on the pieces that I need to cut out, and it should be plenty fine to do everything I need to do. This little handy dandy little angle finder. So now I just need to set a square up to that same angle. Well, handy, of course, it's hitting here now. Shocker. That's pretty much perfect, amazingly enough. Okay, cool. With any luck, all 4 of these will be the same. You know, these are good. Let's hope these are the same. That's perfect. Crazy. Nice. Well, at least the angles are the right way, so let's see if that actually lines up. Again, that's as close as I've ever had that. Impressive. Okay, so we're good here. So I've got this set up to glue. I'm just going to do it on the outlines. Then I have these pieces left over, and I'll clamp this right across here. That's all I got to do. Sounds simple. Well, like all good plans, and here we go. Try one more time. Gonna let those cure, obviously, and then they should be good to go. Start finishing, rounding, sanding, all that other fun stuff. I'm quite happy with the way those turned out. The measurements are pretty much bang on. Everything's plumb and level and square. They line up almost like perfect. One thing that I didn't notice when I looked at the picture the other night was a little cross piece that was that I never noticed before, and I'll show you the picture with an outline with a circled here. So now what I'm going to do, I was kind of wondering how this the top was going to balance properly on the legs, and that will help for sure. So what I'm going to do is I'll notch both of these. I think I'm going to make the piece that goes across ways in here 1 1/4 wide, and then you know, out to just a couple inches beyond here, and that should provide the stability for the bench to not rock back and forth. So that's what I'm going to do. So there's my blade setup, 7/8 of an inch between here and the blade, between the fence and the blade, 1 1/4 inches high. The legs are all taped up to prevent the chipping from the saw blade. One thing I almost did mess up on though is when I put the tape on, I taped it over on the sides. So of course I'll add, you know, because it was a double gap, it would add a little bit of thickness, maybe here, not here, so I just had to trim it off. Well, it's evident my table saw probably I need to do some tweaking on it, and shows up more on something like this doing these notches than anywhere else. So what happens is this part right here is a slightly bit higher than here, and even a little bit higher than here. So as I was going over, this was going like this. I don't know if you can see that. It's exaggerated. Instead of being completely flat, it would lean over. So you can see actually that gap right down there. As you can see this side's a little bit higher than this side. But I am going to work on that. I'll have to get that plate fixed up and make sure that it's level so that I don't have this problem happening again. Kind of annoying and frustrating though. Okay, so I've come up with an idea on how I'm going to fix that wallety little part. Some of you might be saying, why didn't you just do this in the first place? And I'll explain why I didn't. But here's what I'm going to do. So I've got my router set up with that bit there. I'll set my fence up here. And then that should be, because this is perfect all the way through. This is a perfectly flat surface. And that should get this level. Now the reason why I didn't just use that bit in the first place is it takes a long time, and those bits because they're, I mean, I could go smaller ones or bigger ones, but I've always had issues trying to take off, unless you use super tiny amounts. It just wants to kind of grab the wood and gouge it out in different ways you don't want. So that's why, to finish this, I think it'll work okay. I'm willing to risk it, so we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed. Yep, pretty happy with that. Actually, it looked good. So of course, just trying to do a little bit of touching up, making it look a little better, and didn't film it, of course, but this is what I did. Gouged off that corner with the router bit when I was just trying to go one more little pass in here. Luckily, it's not in the part that's going to be visible or a big deal. But okay, onto the little cross pieces. Like a glove. So, like the bonehead that I am, I was so concerned and fixated on getting the width right. I trimmed these down to the 10-inch, or yeah, 10-inch lengths I need. But I never did plane it down to the proper height I needed. So now, height-wise, this one's easier. Now normally it's not a big issue, you just run it through the planer and it's all good. Except the planer minimum length is 12 inches. These are 10. So what I'm going to try to do, and hopefully first I've got this piece which is just a little bit smaller than these ones. So I'm going to run this through first, and then these two pieces in behind it, and then this one right behind it again. And hopefully that'll mimic a 12-inch piece. I don't know. On second thought, I think my best bet is to just rip those down with the table saw. Again, if I just leave the cut side from the saw facing up, it won't be seen anyway, so if it's a little bit rougher, it's not a big deal. And I think the problem in the planer, the reason why the minimum is 12 inches, so the piece is too short, and it gets to the second feed roll, it'll jump it up into the planer blades. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I think that's why you need the 12 inches. So you saw that little adjustment that I made? Was the wrong way. This one's too short now. The other one's perfect. This one is not. It's like, oh well, do it again. The frustrating part, measuring twice, cutting once, or, not paying attention. Okay, you know the saying, 3 times the charm? That has unfortunately applied to me with these stupid little cross pieces. So like a retard, can you say that word? I think when you're calling yourself one, I think it's probably okay. Anyways, I was going to making that piece completely square again. The problem is, I forgot that when I routed that notch a little bit bigger, that actually got a little bit deeper, so it wasn't perfectly square anymore. Instead of being 1 1/4, it was more like 1 5/16, or maybe even a little bit bigger than that. I was trying to calculate the extra 16th on there, but I couldn't. 1 1/4, I guess, or 1 3/8. So this is what happened. So that there is the original piece. As we all know, it was too short. So then I did this one. This is the one that I made perfectly square, but surprise, surprise, that was that extra little bit from the router. And it's not a lot, but it's enough. My nice little gouge there. So I went to the third piece, which is this one. And lo and behold, it is pretty much perfect. Anyways, that's what happens. That's why it's average dad woodworking and not professional woodworking that anybody can do. Anyway, I put this scrap piece, one of my old pieces that I wrecked earlier, didn't do properly, So when the router bit comes across, and just chip the edges off. So that's how that's going to look. Just cut the bench top to length. I have it all laid out. Everything's all squared up. And there we have. The final dimension of the bench top. 68 by, well, 12 and 7/8. Just setting the legs in place for measurement. I think I've got it figured out where I want them. So that's going to be about it. So first things first, I better make sure I've got that on the right side that I want the top and the bottom, and I think this is the top, so I would have mounted them on the wrong side. Shocker. So I have the legs off, and what happened is there's a little lip on here. It's not much, and this one has a bit of the same, but not too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run these through the planer. I know that obviously going this way isn't going to be an issue, but when the blades hit here, I'm hoping it doesn't do anything crazy like chip this off or something like that. I'll try to run it at a bit of an angle. Here's to trying something new. So that actually worked out quite a bit better than I thought it would. Really smooth, didn't chip any of this out. And you can see across here, like it's perfectly smooth. So okay, made a bit of a mistake, shocker. What I did was when I routed it yesterday, you can see I have the B here, the B here. That lines up perfectly. Cross piece goes in like here. I didn't want to route this edge because that cross piece is going to go in here, and I didn't want to route an edge with the cross piece. Except I did the wrong side. Not like it's a big deal, but it's still, you know, this side now is out. Funny thing is, I did the exact same thing on this side. I have the routed edge to the inside. Shouldn't be a big deal. I'll just swap the two these two legs around, and it should be fine. But again, you know, you think you got it, and then you don't. Okay, all swapped around, and you'd never know. Looks exactly the same. No real big deal, but just wanted to, you know, keep showing you guys that I make mistakes, and that's kind of normal for me and probably a lot of us, or maybe just me, I don't know. Perfect, exactly the way I wanted it to fit. So I was coming up with a way to try to mount that cross piece. What I've come up with, I'm going to take this dowel, cut it in half, drill in right in the middle here, and in the middle here, put it in, and then just glue it together. I don't have a drill press big enough to actually drill these perfectly square and straight, so I'm going to just freehand it. And then what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to just take those dowels, sand them down just a bit so they have a little bit of play, and that should be good. Perfect. That's good there. Right on, I think that'll be good. The rough sanding is done. I'm ready to glue in that cross piece, so I'm all set up for that right now. Unlike what I normally do, I am going to do a dry fit. And that right there is why I'm doing a dry fit. How I messed that up, I don't have a clue. I was having some issues with 48 1/8, 48 1/4, and apparently it's 48 1/4. Always cut it too short, never cut it too long. So here we go, another, not a major thing, but just yet one more to mess things up. Okay, so the gap isn't quite as bad. That's where it ended up. But I couldn't cut a piece thin enough to get in there. So what I did was I took one of the thinner pieces that broke apart and just filled the gap. I'll just fill it in after. Well, that was a painful, disastrous glue everywhere, which I hate. Had my great plan, a great idea. So I glue there and there. Nice big blob there and there. Ugh, it's gonna be nuts when that happens. Okay, that glue set up nice. I didn't bother showing you taking it apart. There's too much stuff there. I'm just gonna do the sanding down now to 220. Okay, ready for the staining of this bench. Again, same as before. I'm going to be doing a two-part process. One's going to be a pre-stain and the natural stain itself. So I'm going to leave this part on for the time being, the legs, because I don't want to put stain on the bottom part of the bench where I'm going to be bolting this on, because I'm going to glue it. I want it to be nice and solid there. When the stain is on there, it doesn't tend to hold with the stain because it's the oil base and it doesn't hold. So I'm going to go around that and just leave that one part not stained. As you can see, my little idea there may not have worked terribly well. I suppose now looking back, I probably should have taped that so that it wouldn't go through, but I never thought about it, of course. Pre-stain complete. Now, I just kind of had a brain fart, maybe. I was originally going to stain this gray to match the bed frame, but now I'm wondering if maybe I should stain it to match the nightstands, which are darker, like a dark brown. I have the stain for both, and I have about an hour and a half to figure this out. This is kind of going to be a present for my wife, so I didn't really want to go and call her and say, hey, what do you want the color to be? So this is going to be one I'm going to do on my own. Okay, after a bit of debate and going and looking at the nightstands, I decided to go with gray. Because as it turns out, the nightstands I thought were a brown or blackish color are actually a dark gray. Funny how that works, only had them for probably 5 years or so. Anywho, makes my decision a lot easier to what to go with. I'm just going to match it the same stain as the bed. Okay, I'm going to let that coat. That's the top part that I just did, the seating part of the bench, most visible part of the whole thing. So rather than try to mess around and maybe do the rest of it and come back to that and have runs or whatever, I'm going to let that one soak for 15 minutes and then wipe it off and then continue with the rest of it. Reason being is when I flip it over to do the back side, I don't want to have those stains or the possibility of that stain leaching into the cloth that I'm laying it on. So I'm going to let it do its thing and do the rest of it once that's cured. So it looks decent. I am going to do a second coat of this one. I did for the bed frame as well. It just wasn't quite dark enough. Okay, second wipe off coming up. Yeah, quite happy with that. That actually looks pretty decent. So okay, looks good. Same deal. One more coat just to match the other one. Staining is done. And tomorrow I will bolt it together, and that will be the end of the project. And hopefully it looks good and holds well. So I'm ready to finish this bench, put it all together. My brilliant idea of not staining the parts where I'm going to be bolting or joining them together didn't work out too well. As you can see, the stain basically just leached over. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and bolt these two little wings down on each end, and just that'll be solid enough. Probably only that one screw will be all I would need, but I'm just going to make sure and bolt another one through here and at the other end just in. So once I do that, then it will be finished. And there it is. It is completed. So you can see I bolted that in there. So this will be the whole bench. And I'll put another picture up of what the original one, the idea came from, and then what this one looks like. Another woodworking project done. Happy with it, how it turned out. Didn't have too many problems with that one. Anyways, thanks for watching. And if you do like what you're seeing here, subscribe, leave me any comments, and we'll see you next time.